So, well, okay, here. Okay, so.
Oh, that's just the
The
agenda,
agenda,
though.
yeah, what I can't get done.
Yeah, so that's our plan.
Right there.
Downloading twice now.
You want to hold up calling?
I'm okay. I got the hard copy anyway. Thanks.
All right. We'll go ahead and call tonight's meeting to order. And we will start as we do with our land acknowledgement statement. The Chinookan peoples known as the Clackamas and Cascades are the indigenous people of the land now inhabited by the city of Wood Village and other areas of the Columbia River. The village of Nechakli was located near today's Blue Lake Park. Ancestral life of these people included a seasonal round of resource gathering and stewardship from the Wapato fields and fishing areas of the Columbia River to the cedar and huckleberry gathering areas of the High Cascades. Introduced disease from early settlers dramatically reduced the number of these people. They signed the Willamette Valley Treaty of 1855 with the United States government and were forcibly removed to the Grand Ronde Indian Reservation. We thank the descendants of these tribes for being the original stewards of this land, original protectors of these lands since time immemorial. We also acknowledge the systemic policies of genocide, relocation, and assimilation that still impact many Indigenous Native American families today. We are honored by the collective work of many Native nations, leaders, and families who are demonstrating resilience, resistance, revitalization, healing, and creativity. And we are honored to be guests upon these lands. Now we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I will open the floor for citizen comment on non-agenda items. Greg, did we have any comments submitted?
No online comments.
All right, thank you, Greg. We'll close the floor then, and we'll go to our next agenda item, which is a proclamation on Childhood Cancer Awareness Week. So this proclamation is made on September 22nd in the city of Wood Village to commemorate Childhood Cancer Awareness, Month. We have a week in the staff report. Child Cancer Awareness Month. Whereas the American Cancer Center Fund for Children and Kids Cancer Connection report cancer is the leading cause of death by disease among U.S. children between infancy and age 15. This tragic disease is detected in more than 16,000 of our country's young people every year. An estimated 400,000 children and adolescents are diagnosed with cancer globally each year. And whereas 1 in 5 of our nation's children lose their battle with cancer, many infants, children, and teens will suffer from long-term effects of comprehensive treatment, including secondary cancers. And whereas founded nearly 30 years ago by Stephen Firestein, a member of the philanthropic Max Factor Cosmetics family, the American Cancer Fund for Children Incorporated and Kids Cancer Connection Incorporated are dedicated to helping these children and their families. And whereas the American Cancer Fund for Children and Kids Cancer Connection provide a variety of vital patient psychological services to children undergoing cancer treatment at Randall Children's Hospital, at Legacy Emmanuel, Dornbecker Children's Hospital, and Shriners Children's Hospital, Portland, as well as participating hospitals throughout the country, thereby enhancing the quality of life for these children and their families. And whereas the American Cancer Fund for Children and Kids Cancer Connection Also sponsor toy distributions, family sailing programs, KCC supercar experiences, Laughternoons, Laughter is Healing, pet assisted therapy, educational programs and hospital celebrations in honor of children's determination and bravery to fight the battle against childhood cancer. Now therefore, I, T. Scott Harden, Mayor of the City of Wood Village, proclaim the month of September 2022 as Childhood Cancer Awareness Month in the City of Wood Village, and encourage all community members to increase their awareness of this disease and to support the fight against cancer. And this is proclaimed and signed and sealed on the 29th day of September 2022 in the City of Wood Village. So council knows this is also a proclamation that Multnomah County made, and they encouraged the cities of the county to join in. And it's one of the reasons we offered up the proclamation this evening. Good. All right, next up on the agenda is the consent calendar. Anyone have any questions or comments about the consent calendar? Staff, I know that we said that we were going to put events now on consent, but do you feel like there was anything related to the staff report that bears saying before we entertain a vote?
It was a great event and a really good partnership with the Natural Leaders Group, or Leaders Naturales, my broken Spanish there. And, you know, our financial contribution was about $500, which actually we had kind of left over from the Free Family Fun Friday. So it really had no bottom line impact to our overall events budget. And it was just a great partnership and hopefully something we continue to grow over the course of several years.
Thank you, Greg.
Can I, I just add
Absolutely.
something and just Iro, or if you could comment in the do we know what the attendance about the number of people that 150? Did you, maybe you said that? Yeah. Okay. It looked like there were obviously lots of families here, and it appeared to me that and I ate dinner here. All right. But it did look like a fun event. So
Yeah,
I'm glad we can help host that.
I'm also extremely grateful that the event was able to come to fruition here on site as well. I know the group, the Natural Leaders, invested a lot of time and their own resources to prepare for the event, and so the city, with their contribution of the space and other items, I think was just kind of the whole circle, tying the community and bridging that bridge that we've been trying to do for some time now. So it was great to see all those community members come. There was a lot of questions. I appreciate Greg sharing just the opportunities of how to get involved within our city. We did have lots of comments and questions afterwards of, what is this place? What happens here? And so sparking that interest of folks of not knowing what this place is and, residents of the area, I think is important. And that's how we start building that's how the city starts building that trust. So.
Thank you for that. So I would then entertain a motion on the consent calendar.
Move to approve.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Consent calendar is approved. And next up is discussion of a potential urban renewal business incentive program with Greg.
Thank you very much, Mayor, members of the council, Urban Renewal Board member. And we did hear from board member Steve Morash, who's unable to attend this evening. So we did and I sure hope you like the sound of my voice, because you give me for like the next hour. Whether you like it or not.
Oh, and while Greg's getting prepared, I was remiss in not thanking Urban Renewal Board member Stan Dirks for joining us tonight. Thank you, Stan.
Yeah. Hey, 2 years into using Zoom, finally figure out how to hide some stuff. So, all right. So yes, we're here to talk about the potential for a business incentive program. So this isn't certainly, we're not asking for a vote on it or anything, but simply seeking a direction if this is something you as an urban board want to move forward with. So we're going to go a little bit of a background on our previous program, a little bit why the thought is, and then the program concepts. So A good number of you probably remember our former business incentive program ran from late 2010 to the mid part of 2015. It was a hybrid between the city and its general fund and the urban renewal and urban renewal funds. Because in the towns at the time, there's a lot in the town center, and there was some space in the urban renewal district, mostly focused on the building that currently houses Wood Village Burrito. There are a number of empty suites, as well as a couple other little spots along the corridor, but mostly in the town center. The program covered the cost of the building permit fees, less the required state and local surcharges. So like the school district has a surcharge, Metro has a surcharge, but essentially our permit costs were covered by the program, as well as the first year or year and change of business license. So for example, someone came in September to open their business, it would cover essentially 15 months of the program, not just the first 3. But the intent was that first year's, and it applied to existing vacant commercial space. And in that 4.5 years, it filled about 50,000 square feet of space with an estimated $1.1 million worth of investments. The total cost was about $66,000. Most of it was from the city's general fund, as again, that was where the bulk of the vacant space was, and about $12,000 in the urban renewal fund. So why bring this program back? Well, in the past 2 years, there's been about 20,000 square feet of commercial space added to essentially Halsey in the urban renewal district. And with concerns with COVID and what that did to certain, hospitality, restaurants, a lot of space that these were programmed at, there's still a lot of hesitancy of if COVID comes back or a different style of pandemic, because that industry was hit particularly hard. Workforce availability has actually prohibited some businesses from opening their doors. They thought they couldn't get employment, so they decided not to move forward with it. Supply chain issues and then inflation with the potential risk for a recession are comments we've heard of why some small business owners are a bit hesitant and why we're seeing some continuing vacant space. It's worth noting that Fairview and Troutdale both have incentive programs that target kind of restaurant, small business. So a lot of, I believe Troutdale's had 2 successful ones use their restaurant one. Primarily, so Troutdale, their system development charges. So unlike ours, which is based on water meter size, which basically means you could be an office building, you could be a restaurant. Both have very different water usage, but it's based on the meter. So we charge, whether you use a little or a lot, we charge based on what that meter can provide. Troutdale actually charges by the actual business use. So if you have like a vacant space that used to be an office, but it's going to be a restaurant, you have to pay additional system development charges based on the presumed use that restaurant will have. And so there are some fairly high financial barriers to have a restaurant in Troutdale. And so their program helps target those SDCs to pay those down. Fairview is through their urban renewal program as well and helps target specific investments for restaurants, but it seems to be a lengthy application process, and I don't believe any business has gone through at least they haven't awarded to any business, at least as of yet. But both do have programs that target the same types of businesses we'd be looking to fill along the Halsey corridor. So a potential program, we ran ours for nearly 5 years, and it was refined over those 5 years to basically work out to how what's laid out in front of you, where the business owner or owner's rep has to apply for the incentive prior to pulling a permit. Early in our program, we saw that a contractor was coming in to pull a permit. They found out, oh, I don't need to pay. The contractor held on to that savings, not the business owner. And the intent is to try to incentivize to be just enough of an incentive to say, yes, we do want to, move forward with this project here. And this would help that, not, oh, what a nice little surprise bonus. It's to incentivize, not just as a reward. As I said, it would pay for the permit fees for the tenant improvements, but not the required surcharges. We put in here, and this was based on the previous program, they'd have to start within their construction within 30 days of receiving the permit. So that's not when they turn in the plans. That's the plans have been approved. We issue the permit. They got to start within 30 days and be done within a year. Now, there could be some pluses or minuses within that year. Certainly with supply chain issues or sometimes projects go a little sideways, but the intent is You can't just, keep rolling it and have a vacant space. This was another one from the previous program where if an existing business relocates and leaves a vacant space, that doesn't qualify because we wouldn't want, say, a business in the town center to move to the byway, but now have a vacant spot in the town center. The point is to fill the vacant space. Nonprofits wouldn't qualify mostly because they're non-tax paying entities. And we could run the program for a year or at least until the spaces are occupied. And by year is mostly, till December 31st, 2023. So a year and change. So that's what a potential program could look like. And that was based off the last iteration of the program we had back in 2015 after we kind of worked out some kinks from the previous one. So it's really up to some discussion, deliberation, and direction. If you decide, yes, we want to consider actually having a program, we could bring it back as soon as next month. And, we kind of use some rule of thumb back at envelope math based on some current projects that were completed in the town center of what this could cost, using Jersey Mike's, for example. And it kind of depends on the level of investment and exactly what they're building and how some of the existing buildings or suites are actually occupied. You could, if they want to expand, not just have one of the little suites, but maybe they're taking up two, that reduces the number of individual suites. So we estimated the cost of the program anywhere from $50,000 to $100,000, kind of based on is one business taking up one or multiple suites, and then that level of investment and what they're exactly doing. Because, for example, the commercial space of the byway is essentially vanilla shelled. I mean, it even has bathrooms, fixtures, but if they need to add something, that's going to be a little more versus the building across the street is pretty much a shell. So there could be a little more in the terms of tenant improvements needed to finish that one. And if approved, we would certainly go out right away to property owners, leasing agents, and potential business perspectives. So with that, what questions do you have and what direction do you want to provide?
Greg, do you know how much roughly total square footage we have of vacant space that would qualify? I know
It's about 20. Because
20 was added. Is there a?
that's all vacant. Yeah. So it's basically.
Is there any other additional aside from that 20?
There's a little at, I think, again, I call it the Wood Village Burrito Building. I think there's an empty suite there, maybe two. But it's essentially all of the byway, and that's just under 10,000. And then the building across the street is just under 10,000.
Thank you. That's my only question.
Without the map in front of me, is any of the Wood Village Market Corner in urban renewal?
Yes, that is in the urban renewal.
Okay.
Councilor Nissen, or Councilor.
No, you've answered it and I looked this over. The only comment I have is we would take care of licensing fees in the last one.
Yes.
I wouldn't object to adding that if we needed to. We're taking care of permit fees. But
Oh, yeah, the idea would be that would be something included.
okay, all right.
So I'm sorry, that wasn't a little more clear, but yeah, it'd be the permit costs and the.
Okay. You've answered the question about Troutdale for me. I don't have any questions. I think we should get started on it myself.
Councilor Rios Campos.
I think this is a great project, and even having the ability to expand. And so looking at the town center to see if there's any vacant spots there that could also, I mean, I know most of it has been preoccupied now, but just looking at when or if spaces have come available to have these programs, that they would be also able to be apply for this program. And I know kind of the synergy is around the Halsey because of the main streets, but I think it'd be good to maybe at a later time look at what it could do to expand.
Councilor Mann.
Ours is not just for restaurants, right? It's for.
No, it'd be filling any vacant space. But I mentioned restaurants because Troutdale and Fairview both have specific call outs for restaurants, which is also what we're trying to compete for. But no, it'd be any kind of space.
I see. And you said you'd cover permit costs and what else? There's
The first year business license.
business license. Thank you. I don't have any other questions.
And urban renewal Commissioner Dirks.
Well, just one comment towards what Jairo mentioned was town center. Town center is not in urban renewal district, so they wouldn't qualify.
It would have to be a city
Separate program.
separate program out of general fund. And it's worth noting. So, Jersey Mike's took a vacant spot. And then when Country Financial left, it was split into a couple different suites, and Joint Chiropractic is gearing up for their grand opening. And it was my understanding from meeting John and I had the other week with Sire's representative, that they're in final lease negotiations for the rest of that vacant spot. So if that comes to fruition, the entire town center is leased up 100%.
Also, basically the area you're talking about primarily is the byway.
Byway and then that building across the
Building
street.
across the street, because the byway project's been vacant for a long time, and that was kind of maybe to be expected because commercial space, brick and mortar, those can be hard to fill. Has there been any incentive program from the owners of the byway to help fill those vacancies, like giving them a deal on leasing or helping pick up the tab on those
I
permits?
know so early on, they didn't plan to vanilla shell, basically finish out the interior of the space. So originally it was raw timber on the inside and gravel, wasn't even poured concrete. They found that was a barrier to a number of potential lessees. So they finished out, all the drywall and it was basic white paint. But basic paint, they poured the concrete and actually added all the restrooms and finished those off as well. So it's essentially could be moving ready depending on what someone's trying to do with this space. Now, if it's going to be a restaurant, they got to put in equipment, things like that. But, kind of like a retail shop, it's bring in your shelves and your cash register and your product and you're good to go.
Right. And just, we're a small town. We have limited revenue sources. Owners of the byway may have very unlimited sources of revenue. $100,000 to large conglomerate corporation owner like that is really not much money, but to a small city, it is a lot of money. Is it the best way to use urban renewal dollars? I don't know. It seems like the council is on board with running with this. But sometimes maybe corporate needs to step up since they do have the resources to help fill their properties. Maybe have a lease deal where you get the first 3 months for free. Maybe, give them help pick up those permit fees to get those buildings occupied, because they will generate revenue to the owners of that complex. We won't really see anything really, maybe a little bit increment in our taxes. I don't know.
Depends on the level of investment for their tenant.
Exactly.
improvement. Yeah.
But I'll run with whatever the council wants to do. It's just my opinion that, $100,000 to a large corporation is really nothing. And to a small town like this, it's substantial. Can we use $100,000 to do more improvements for our citizens here instead of, helping out a large corporate structure? So.
And if it helps kind of anecdotally, we had one potential business owner. I mean, he's a business owner looking to move into the building across the street, asking if there was any kind of incentive programs, because that would help in their financial to pencil that one out. And then in terms of the byway, Dyke had reached out and said, do you have a program? Because one of our potential lessors got approached by Fairview to try to lure them away with their program.
All right, you got competition from our neighbors, that's for sure. I just wanted to throw that thought out, think about where we are spending our urban renewal dollars.
Thanks, Commissioner Dirks. I appreciate that perspective. Greg, as you begin to, if we go forward with this, you begin to have some negotiations. I don't know whether you can leverage some of Commissioner Dirks' comments about we can step up here, but perhaps you could reduce the first month or 2 months lease too, to help somebody in here. But we're a city and we're ready to partner with you to move forward on this, but use this
As a lever
as
to
a
get
lever
something on the other
to
end.
try to get the corporate money.
Asking's free.
Yeah. And the other question I had, previously with this program, was it successful in attracting business?
I would think by the latter part, when we finally refined the program to make it work that was benefiting the business owner, yes, there were some businesses that wouldn't have relocated here but for this program. Early on, when it was just, we're paying permit costs, again, a lot of it went to contractors, and we don't know if that was saved then by the business owner, but we caught that one relatively early on. By the end, yes, some businesses only came here because of this program. Otherwise, they would have located in Gresham.
Well, we would, you'll keep good data on it, and we'll have a year in which we can go back and take a look at it and see if it was successful or what we might have to do to tweak it if we need to go forward.
And I'm more than happy. Again, there's kind of two of the big primary players. Again, there's a little vacant suite in another building, but certainly in the big occupied space, I'm more than happy to go to the owners and say, look, we can put together a program, but the board asked if you could do something on your end too, and then bring that forward at a future meeting as a package.
Yeah, I really like that. That portion of getting the buy-in from the owners also is, we're putting something in. What can you guys put in to kind of also
Match it.
and match it and attract more businesses? And I think that'd be a good approach.
So if that's the direction, I'm more than happy to move forward and bring something back.
Just Greg, so the first program spent just 66 grand total over the 5 years. Could you just take a split second to go back over the current cost estimates and why they would be dramatically different than that over a 1 year period of time as opposed to a 5 year?
So we used current permit costs. Like I said, it was, the Jersey Mike's is the one I used because it was a relatively shell existing space. And it was, so if you look at TIs, it was about 7,000 in permit cost. If you look at total project, about 12,000 because there was a combination of owner improvements because the space was nearing 20 years old and the owners actually had to upgrade HVAC units, some other plumbing, this, that, and the other. So we used kind of the average between 7,000 and 12,000, and then counting up how many potential units there are along the corridor. So like the byway could be up to, I think I used either 6 or 7, and then there could be 2 across the street. Now, if it more than one space, the permit cost is still probably going to be somewhere between that 7,000 to 10,000, but now there's fewer spaces. So that's why we had the low end. If it's a relatively simple project, it could be even dramatically less than 7,000, but we try to estimate a bit on the higher side, understanding the potential max cost that the program would be, not necessarily try to lowball it to make it look financially palatable and then, blow by the budget double or triple. So it just kind of depend on the level of tenant improvement still needed and how much space any one tenant is taking. And that's the variable of the range. But we did use a kind of a most current project to get permit cost estimates.
10 to 15 was kind of a long time ago. But I seem to remember some of the applicants actually, coming in and making an ask and making a case for their business and why they should qualify for these things. And I think that we should actually make that a requirement this time around, that you make a presentation on the character of your business and how this might make it more profitable for you to build in Wood Village, or how it's a better program than maybe you've seen someplace else. But just we don't just give them the money because they're moving into one of these vacant spaces. We give them the money because they took the time to come in and ask council for it.
Would that be council or do you want the whole urban renewal board?
Both, probably. Yeah.
What was it, Greg? Would it be-
I guess, would you want the whole urban renewal board or a city council? It would be the board, the urban renewal board.
Yeah, I don't think we should have to make a production out of it, though. I'm not sure I wouldn't mind hearing it, but I'm not sure I need to have them persuade.
Well, I'm not
all of
saying
it.
that we would judge whether or not they're qualified.
Uh-huh.
I just think that they should make the ask for the money. I mean, it's just like planning commission, if something is a outright use in the zone, they don't have to have a hearing with the planning commission in order to be able to build it. But I would like to go just a step beyond that, where they at least come and introduce themselves and say, you know, we're you know, going to build this type of business, and this is why we wanted to come to Wood Village. And we can say, was this program part of the enticement? You're not for approval, just to get to know them. But you know, I think that you know, it's
So it's not approving, but it's a condition of receiving the
yeah,
funds.
funds, yeah.
Could
And
that be
yeah.
part of the application instead of adding something additional to everyone's plate, not only the applicants, but ours? And have that part of the application. Why? Why do you want to come, you know, what?
Why Wood Village?
Why Wood Village?
Sure, I guess so.
Or
I
we
mean-
give them the choice, either fill it out on the application.
Full
or we can get them to
disclosure,
a
I
board.
mean, we're bringing the program back up because potential people that might want to locate here have asked about it. And owners of buildings have asked about it. And I've had an opportunity to have conversations with someone some of them where I've specifically said, we don't have a program now. We could have a program again, and it would be really great if you came and made the presentation to council and asked us to start it again and told us why it would benefit your business. And quite frankly, I'm a little pissed that none of them did, that it just came down to our staff in order to think of all the details and make the presentation.
Again, I think if we're sending staff back to develop an application based on the information that we're sharing here tonight, I think the application itself is going to answer the questions. I don't have a real need myself to have the applicant come and sit in a meeting and then present to us or represent it. If they want to, I certainly would like to hear it. But again, I don't want to make it, I'm not comfortable making it a condition of.
It's not a condition
Yeah.
of getting the money. It's a courtesy. And that we should be shown. Because, you know, because
Well, I don't-
we're just deciding to give away money.
I don't, you know, I have no problem with courtesies.
They can't come and talk about their business and say why they were here, then I would rather not have a program and give the money away. Because the places are going to rent anyway. That was the case with the early part of the very first program, like Greg explained. We were a year or better into that, maybe 2 years into that, before our business finally came, because that was the program. So, you know, I'm not saying we don't give them the money necessarily. I'm just asking them for have a tiny bit of skin in the game. You know, in terms of, you know, telling the council why they're here and why they chose Wood Village.
I think having it like Council President Nissen said, an option. Either take the time to write it out
Or take the time.
or
to-
take the time to come in and share it with us. I think that, you know, for some, again, this could be not an ideal place to come up and talk and things of that nature. Even though as inviting that we might make it seem to be, it's still intimidating for some folks. But I think
Or
that
They're working at their business. I mean,
Perhaps.
when you think of the Jim Motts of the world, who when they first started out were working till midnight, that could be the case, but to give the option to take the time to write it out or present or both.
because again, that, you know, they have to take that time to do it, you know, and ask those questions, why?
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, they have to take that time to get a free business license and to get free permits. And we're the easiest freaking council in the county to meet with. We're
Mr.
not,
Mayor, though,
we're not at all intimidating.
I think culturally too, we need to keep that in mind, that if English isn't their first language and they take 3 hours to write out a couple of paragraphs and have a lot of help doing it to get that they can present to us
And
versus coming here
And they can write it in Spanish if they want to, and we will translate it. And we pay for translation services. and we would pay for the translation service if they wanted to make the presentation. These are all things we have done to improve and be intentional about our community outreach. And I see no problem with asking the community to be more of a part of the process than just putting their hand out.
Well, I
When
don't think,
when we try to make it easy as for them as possible.
well, I don't think that's putting a hand out when they're still, having to take that time to do it.
Well, if they
No.
don't have to take that time to do it, it is just putting.
Well, but no one's saying that that's what we're saying, that they could have the option to write it in writing or come present. I think that for me is a viable option.
I have a question. If we go through with this project, who actually okays the give? Is that something that they fill out the paperwork, they qualify, and it's just passed through the city? Or does every application have to come before the urban renewal board to?
Well, I mean, that's, I
Grant
think,
the
what we're
ask.
discussing. And I think right now, the majority think that they could just pay the money to the urban, or that they could just turn in the application to the urban renewal board and they would just get the money.
Right, but
And I'm fine with them just getting the money. I'm not saying that their appearance here or, their written testimony is a condition of getting the money.
right, my
It's
question is,
just not out of the realm.
who's
to,
actually gonna go through the application process? The application,
The previous program workers is done administratively. If they
So it
met,
was
if they met the
city
application
staff would go-
criteria,
okay.
they
The city
receive.
staff has to basically go through it, see if they even qualifies. And then we'd have to go through this process of having them come in person or put in a written statement. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, when you look at the people that are looking at those buildings right now, language is not going to be an issue. If it's at the byway, people that are coming in there, it's probably going to be their lawyers that write the paper for them. Just a tiny bit of, this is why we want to be part of your community, would be a nice deal. And we have the meetings at freaking 6 o'clock, not 10 o'clock in the morning. Okay, they're not working. Okay, and I don't have any sympathy for the people that are tired and might have worked all day, because I worked all day before I got here.
Well, is the option? Can you live with the option?
The written option's fine. Single space, about 500 words. I'll be good.
I will draft an application for the next meeting that has a draft application in it, so you can review both, how they would write out how they meet the criterion, as well as then, the statement questions, plus an option to actually meet with the council or board. And then you can finalize it from there if that is acceptable to you all.
Yeah, and just the last process previous, was that a step in the process, the presentation or the face-to-face with the council?
No, it wasn't
Okay.
a requirement then. And that's one of the reasons I believe it should be a requirement now.
Okay.
Some did come, some didn't.
Okay.
And the ones that came primarily came to say, hey,
Thank you.
thanks, and by this way, this is what we're doing.
Well, I'd sure hope that they all come and tell us thanks, and they're looking forward to working in the city.
I mean, I understand where you're coming from, but I'm also a little concerned about equity too. Like Chick-fil-A, for example, comes in, they have a lot of money. It's not like, no, and they don't need it, obviously, and they're not going to ask for it, but people who need it, it feels like we're asking them to like do an extra step. And there's like privileged businesses don't have to say, we want to be a part of your community. because we-"
Chick-fil-A is not in an area where they could ask for the money if this program were voted for, because they're not an urban renewal.
Well, I guess.
And if you knew the people that, are looking to fill these businesses, we're not talking about Chick-fil-A money, but we're
Right.
talking about better than Upper Village money.
But well, I guess I'm trying to highlight maybe the difference of people who need the incentive to help the. start the
Anybody that
business.
builds there is going to ask for it, whether they need it or not. And,
But are we
and the program that we adapt is going to say yes.
I guess my point is like, are we asking Fred Meyers why they want to be a part of our community? Like the difference there.
Well, I do think the equity piece, and Counselor Rio Campos, I think, was getting at that too. That I do think that's an important factor. I don't know, to me, it just doesn't feel like it's that we're in the business of setting the standards that staff is going to go out and present to our public. I love it when people come in and tell us, thanks, it's nice to be here. But again, I just don't think everybody should be required to do it. I think the option on the application is a way to invite them if they would like to. But even a small business going into that is pooled together with several family members, there is an equity issue there that aren't necessarily versed nor the wherewithal to make a presentation, but they can, when they pool their wisdom, their resources, fill out an application, and certainly, Greg, as you talk to these, hopefully we get a whole bunch of them lined up, and they have the opportunity to come to a council meeting. Is really where I'm most comfortable.
And I also don't want to forget, I will reach out to the property owners and say, what are you going to do to help or match, whether in, making improvements or lease terms or et cetera. So when we bring this back, I'll have a status update on that piece as well.
I think that's an important piece also, just because, whatever happens with that, potential other areas that might be developed, that's a precedent for them also, that if they are building commercial space, they will also be kind of thought out to have some matching to an incentives that we have.
All right. Thank you, Greg. I think you've
Thank
got
you.
your direction on that. And so now we'll go with Greg again for our staff reorg update.
Needs to be mayor, but is it urban renewable?
Yes, sir. Unless you want to stay for the rest of the fun.
I'm watching on TV.
All right. Thank you, Stan. Appreciate your coming in.
Take care. You bet.
You're gonna watch it all game. You're not gonna watch it.
Oh, I record you guys.
Okay.
No, he actually really does.
I know. Jeez.
All right, you're still with me. This is a little update on our staff reorganization that we kind of touched upon when we talked about our budget adoption back in May, gave some updates this latter part of the summer. And I want to give a full update on what we've actually done and what those impacts have been. Really not much of a PowerPoint on this one. I'm going to do more talking than screen sharing, but I have a few bullet points there. But to go back in time, so around May, when we brought the budget forward, one of the changes that we made to it was added $60,000 spread over different funds for personnel. At that time, we knew M was leaving, otherwise known as the HIP person. That's what one of our counselors called her. And we didn't know at the time, how we could fill that. Could we fill it? We were kind of running two parallel tracks. One was we'll try to fill it, but the other was understanding the ongoing concerns about workloads, workflow, retention, and then, call it the communal goals of increasing some of our service areas and how that could look. So we said, well, let's try to see if we can fill it, but let's also start crafting some rework. We did go out for the recruitment. It was not successful. So then we moved forward on the reorganization. And so what we did, we essentially stripped the assistant to the city manager position altogether. We scrapped it and, distributed those buckets either to existing positions that in some cases were elevated or in a couple of cases actually created a new position. And so to elevate some positions, you had to then strip duties off of them, which then necessitated creating another new position. So in total, while there are two new positions added, there's only one additional person. I don't like the term FTE. So you hear me say we added one person just because I don't like FTE. So So what we did is we created the community outreach engagement specialist, and that's Caroline, and she focuses, a lot on our website, social media, which is a growing area of the way where our community's been communicating and receiving information. She's also working on code enforcement along with Mary. So we're tag teaming it now. That way it's more of a team, so things don't as easily drop. And we have kind of the education side with the enforcement arm, much like we talked at the last meeting. So just don't want people to think it's, only doing Facebook. It's more than that, and it'll be an integral part when we roll out that large community outreach engagement effort. She's going to be a big piece of that. We created an AP purchasing and HR tech. That was kind of an internal elevation of a position. But that was our formal front desk person who had a lot of background in accounting and from the beginning had wanted additional duties. And that was a great fit to be able to strip some duties from some other people so they could be elevated and focus on higher level tasks. So we moved her up a step, and then we were able to, essentially hire back the front desk person, which was just a phenomenal hire. I'm not sure if anyone's been able to meet. Thank you, Chelsea yet, but I mean, go ahead, Carol. He's not fine. Just a wonderful, catches on quick, has been excelling with our customers and guests. At the same time, Eric, our permit tech, left, but because we had that recruitment ongoing for front desk, we're actually able to backfill that one with using the same recruitment process. And that's been a wonderful addition to the team as well. We bumped up what had been an administrative assistant to a management analyst to cover some of the admin tasks that the assistant to the city manager position had been doing. And that was one of the flaws of the position. You had some high level policy work. You had some community outreach and engagement work, and then you had just, grunt work. Hard buckets to fill with one person, especially in the long term. Could you find someone over any given period of time to do that? Yes, because we've had that. But we've seen a trend where it's been harder and harder to fill kind of the high level plus low level and all the stuff in the middle. So we stripped it, and part of the policy pieces went to our management analyst, and then some of the pieces that person been doing as part of that AP person. On the utility side, because it's a younger crew, not just in age, but just I'll call it experience and that leadership and growth. We needed a linchpin, a connection point between field operations, and I'll call it just, government governance and, the city hall side of things. And so we elevated what had been, again, the assistant public works, what was this?
Public Works Administrative Assistant.
Thank you. To the Assistant Public Works Director. Spends about 50-50 of their time out in the field with the crew. And then the other time here, again, focusing on some high level stuff, a lot of the planning side of things, utility management kind of focus. And so we stripped lower level stuff. And that's, again, went to that AP purchasing HR tech person. And that's been working out really well to have an additional connection point to the field crew, as John can't always be out in the field and monitor and things without that lead worker presence. We needed to fill that gap. So in summary, we elevated 3 current team members, which was great for retention and growth. That resulted in 1 backfill and then 1 new hire. So again, went from 15 total people to 16 total people. What did that do? So as I explained earlier, when we did the budget adoption, we added $60,000 to total cost, and this is total cost, so salary and benefits. The additional was $56,000. Put that in perspective, a PSU fellow is just over $40,000. So not too bad given the fact that we're getting a nice mid-tier permanent person for under $60,000 all in. And that part of that is because we cut a fairly high level position and spread that around and elevated it. Below you see the pie charts kind of showing how the split works. Now we also at the same time took this as an opportunity to, I'm not sure if Seth would call it fix a glitch. Feel free to pop in anytime, Seth, to change my vernacular, but fix a glitch. So if you look on the original with the crossed out portions, as we're working with our budget and really want to make it based on function, general fund admin and general fund public works, we're not function based. They're basically just placeholder budget categories where a decent amount of personnel costs lived, but you couldn't allocate it to a specific function. And we really want to move towards, public, here is your dollar, and here is every place your dollar is gone based on function, not just an amorphous admin? Is it parks? Is it public safety? Is it, events? What is that? And so during the reorganization, we took that opportunity to actually fine tune some of our allocation splits. And that's where you're seeing the graph on the right here. And so the first time we actually added a general fund public safety category to our personnel costs, because admitting our contracts, code enforcement, a bit of even planning and building, that's public safety. So we added that, and you can see on the utility side, it increased it a little bit there as we're actually refining how people spend their time. So a little more detail than you probably wanted to know or needed to know for this level. The key piece is we're able to add a person for under $60,000, which is under the budget category. And hopefully, it spreads the workload out a little better. So we're going to hopefully prevent some burnout. We're providing meaningful work to people that have been here quite a while and continuing their growth and career trajectory. And are able to bring on some new people to focus on some overall big goals like that community outreach and engagement and connection point. So that is what I have for this evening, but I'm happy to entertain any and all questions that you have, or comments, questions, concerns.
Council President Nissen? Council Minor?
No questions. It just sounds like you've used a pretty good process of maybe just wiping the slate clean a little bit and starting over and incorporating staff here to help manage and design a system that is going to be address the needs you have now.
Hopefully, and that's what we talked about kind of as we wrapped up this whole thing. We said, wow, we did that, say, relatively quickly. When you think other organizations of any given size, there could have been studies and this, that, and the other, and you spend 6-9 months figuring out what are you going to do. We kind of knew what we needed to do. I mean, we kind of know what we needed to do, so we just went with it.
Good. In your packet here, your narrative, there's a potential, and I'm on the groundskeeper, because if I go and think about our turnover, I may be off on this, but it seems like we have turnover in the grounds.
I have, it wasn't necessarily spelled out in here in my presentation, but I have we just refined that this afternoon.
Okay.
So we're actually, instead of hiring for a groundskeeper, which has been a very difficult one to both recruit and retain, we're actually going to recruit for utility worker 1, so an entry-level utility worker with more of a focus on groundskeeping. So a usual utility worker 1, as we bring them on, we try to focus them on a lot of water, then sewer, the utility trades. This one is going to be more 80-85% focused on facilities and grounds, and then the other 20 to 15% on the utility side. So a little bit longer career path to get certified in water and sewer. So we're addressing the grounds and facility needs, but also building a little bit of depth of our team, as if other utility workers move on to other opportunities. We've got at least a little bit of depth to our pool to backfill anyone that may leave, or just a 5th person on a team if we've got a larger project going.
But that is an area that we do have challenges retaining. Is that
groundskeeping? Yes. Utility workers, actually, it's been stable the last couple of years. It's an interesting field. When you look at qualified operators with different levels of licenses, the higher the license, the fewer people they are. And the downside is programs like there's only one college I'm aware of in the state that actually still offers utility workforce readiness, and that's Clackamas Community College. It used to be 2 or 3 programs around the state. It's down to 1 program at the state. So you're not getting a lot of people interested in the utility trades. And so the workforce is still shrinking, but it's a very needed career path that people aren't going into.
Yeah. Is the potential to contract services, are you saying you're not going to look at that? If you are, I'd just like to see the costing of it. I mean,
It's kind of what we thought. It was probably going to be too cost prohibitive.
Okay.
We would still have to backfill it with personnel anyway.
Okay.
Like, well, if we have to backfill it, might as well just do it.
Okay, well, I'll leave it at that. If you worked it through and you think that's the best approach to it, to not only hire people, but keep them. Okay.
And some of groundskeeper retention might have been because they weren't part of the bargaining unit. But if they're a utility worker level 1, they will have the union protections.
That's good. Good.
So we'll actually increase our represented employees from 4 to 5.
No, I just think this is a great opportunity also to like you said, the retention of folks. And so hopefully this helps with that.
Councilor Amend.
Questions or comments?
All right. Thank you, Craig. Appreciate the presentation. And next up then, we have Resolution 25-2022. This is a zoning and development code text amendment with Greg again.
Yeah, sorry, stick with me.
Just holding on for that director's report.
I think that was a dig at me, but I'm going to pretend it wasn't. All right. So again, thank you. Resolution 25-2022, a text amendment authorization process for psilocybin facilities. Yeah, it took me a long time to remember how to say that word right. So a bit of background on land use authorization. So only the City Council or Planning Commission can actually authorize a text amendment process. So that's amending our zoning and development code that has to come from either you all or Planning Commission. And it only enables the process. You're not enabling any code tonight. So if enabled, if you say, yes, we want to move forward with it, we, develop our drafts, we send them to DLCD, there's a Planning Commission hearing, City Council hearing, or any kind of other joint sessions or workshops anyone wants as part of that process. So Measure 109 passed in November 2020, authorized use of psilocybin and, in a medical way. So it's, unlike marijuana, which is open on the retail market, psilocybin, otherwise known as, magic mushrooms or hallucinogenics, is under a controlled medical environment. So it's not just open market, open use. This measure passed in Wood Village with over 55% of the vote. And it's overseen and regulated by the Oregon Health Authority. Now, the OHA has yet to adopt its final rule. So they hope to, I think they said December, and they start January. So there's still some unknowns of what the final rules will look like. But we know it covers, training programs for operators, licenses, compliance, tracking product from manufacturer to consumption, because the idea or the concept is, a patient will go to one of these clinics or facilities. They take the product and they're being watched over by a medically trained of some level type of person, make sure they're not a harm to themselves or others. Not here to debate that or its, potential medical benefits. Simply that's what the process is. So it's not for general retail sales and use like marijuana currently is. As part of the measure, cities/counties could actually outright ban it from the community, but the deadline was for the November election. That kind of slipped by a lot of places. But given the fact that it passed here with 55% of the vote, much like marijuana, it was thought, well, we could, be part of that solution. So the idea was if we add it to our zoning development code, it would essentially follow the same regulations as the marijuana facilities. So you can regulate time, place, and manner restrictions. So marijuana has certain time limits that the stores can be open. It's a conditional use and there are distancing restrictions. It's 1,000 feet from, schools, parks, and other like facilities. Now, in the current draft rules, it's 1,000 feet from schools is already built into the regulations, but you can actually, add some layers to that if you want to regulate it, because you don't have to. So if you say, no, we don't want to add that as a use, it just goes to the underlying associated use. So if it's for manufacturing, for actually producing the product, it would just be treated as manufacturing. If it's, a clinic, it would just be, a medical use. So you don't have to regulate it. But the thought is if you want to, it would follow the current marijuana regulations, which is what the cities of Troutdale and Gresham are planning to do. So again, you don't have to take any action. You can also just request a joint session with Planning Commission before you decide to authorize this or not, or the staff recommendation is go ahead and essentially craft the it'd be marijuana/psilocybin and be the same conditional use regulations for both types of uses.
I'll start with questions then. Council President Nissen.
Don't know that I have any questions offhand.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Minor.
Yes, I do. This is different. It's really different than marijuana in my mind, all right? We may craft some language for it, but as I read this, the the background to this is, most people know it's it's a hallucinogenic, natural, plant, and indigenous people have been using it for, hundreds and thousands of years probably. But there is evidence that this is not like marijuana. This does and can impact, your mental state, to hallucinations, and really cause, in some cases, health conditions later on. So as I think about this, and I think about all the mental health issues that we're having in this society right now, the mental health is affecting our gun violence. It's affecting domestic abuse. It's affecting kids in school. We all know all those. We missed the window to say we don't want it because I believe that was
August, we would have
August.
had to have the measure in place.
Yeah, so we missed the window if we wanted to do that. And I'm not saying we would have decided that I think the state was
Well,
about
and nothing
55 or
precludes
56.
at a future election, just if any facilities locate before then, they would be allowed to exist.
Yeah,
So it's still a possibility.
yeah, and I think if I read it right, in 2 years, it could come back and cities could. But anyway, that was my sense of this. Why would we want to increase the potential for this drug being used without control? I read the ordinance and I read it deeper, and I'm more comfortable with a decision if we make it, that this is a very controlled situation in which people can access this in our town. So that's where I think it's different than marijuana. If we're going to write code, that I want that code myself, very specific. You buy it there at a licensed dealer. You take it under the care of a healthcare provider licensed, and however the state's going to do that. And we don't know that yet because we don't know what the health.
The final rules are correct.
Right. But for us, I want it as prescriptive and as controlled as possible for just those reasons. Because under certain conditions, there is medical evidence that it can treat trauma, either cancer victims can find relief with it. So I'm not arguing I don't have enough background, nor would I try to argue the medical issues of it, but there's evidence that it does help from what I've read. So that's my take on it as if we move forward with this in the direction of adopting it. And then the other thing is, this is the one piece, it doesn't have to do with this particular item, but we talk about home rule a lot. And we get angry when we don't have a chance to exercise home rule. And in this case, we had that chance. It was built into it. The state built it in so that cities could make a choice on this. And all I'm calling that out for is when we have opportunities to move forward and the state has directed us all to do certain things, if there's a window in which we can have the discussion about what do we want to have happen in Wood Village, I just like to try to exercise that, and we have that opportunity to have that discussion. So there's my thoughts on it. One is more process, and I'm not even going to challenge why we didn't, because it was COVID and we had a couple years of lots of things going on. But if we get a chance, if home rule is a possibility, let's just talk about it.
Ask the question, absolutely.
yeah.
And that should have been done. It was one of those that I think it caught up to a lot of cities.
Well, there's a lot coming. So anyway, there's my thoughts on it.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Rios Campos.
Yeah, I think for me, just kind of more lines of, where obviously the state is gonna put the rules and then, how do we try in some form to not have it as accessible to the youth and things like that. So having those, like, obviously not being able to use it at the parks and public places and things like that, I think.
When again, I believe, and again, the final rules aren't out, but you do have to take it at a licensed facility under the care of a licensed person. So it's not on the open market. Well, the way that the law is crafted is not on the open market. That's not to say you can't have people who are using it, call it willy-nilly at random places. That would still be illegal under Oregon law, still illegal under federal law for all of it. But in terms of the psilocybin facilities, it all has to be on site to that facility. And we can craft the same 1,000 feet from parks, schools, other facilities to help address as they're coming down from whatever the effects are, that, again, not a harm to themselves or others.
Councilor Mann?
Yeah, I've been thinking a bit about the research supported studies related to psilocybin use in
So, man, I tried for a long time and I still mucked it up.
Psilocybin is close. It is kind of psycho. I lost my train. There's a lot more like evidence-based peer-reviewed research that it does help with clinical depression and other things, like in a clinical setting, that this can really help, and especially about harm reduction. If we're allowing people, I feel like it's good for our community. And to really be thinking about that. And I also just wanted to highlight that drug use and alcohol use is not a direct correlation of violence. Like, it is often involved, but it is a choice to be violent. So I just wanted to make sure but I do support people being able to access this treatment clinically.
And even if there are land use regulations, you still have to have willing either, landlords or landowners to lease or rent out to an operator. And that's what we've seen, certainly with marijuana. There are some, either because of their own financial restrictions or, personal beliefs, that they don't lease or rent to certain operations.
Also, I feel like it can be a common misperception that you just like eat a bunch of mushrooms and then, trip out. Like, I'm sure people do that. I know people do that. But in the clinical setting, it's dosage. There's a dosage. There's someone monitoring you. So it's not like someone's gonna, drink a bunch of tea and then go play in the park. Like, that's not the plan, I hope. So.
They might find the splash pad enjoyable. Yeah.
I'm city manager. In the splash pad. Can I read this? Can I read this?
Yes, absolutely.
I move to approve resolution 25/2022, directing the city manager to initiate a text amendment process to create standards for psilocybin facilities.
Friendly amendment, if I could. And you don't have to accept it, but that it be as presented by Greg, that we could say, no closer than 1,000 foot to a park, or no closer than 1,000 foot to another psilocybin facility.
Yeah, that was already kind of baked in. That it would follow the same marijuana
Okay.
conditions, and that's 1,000 feet distancing.
Okay. All right, then I withdraw the friendly motion.
Second.
All right, any other discussion?
Just the discussion about, Greg, what's the timeline for this? Are you gonna craft up something or wait for the?
I'd like to craft something prior to January 1 when it takes effect. So, in front of you all, at your December meeting, planning commission time November before the holidays, you all at your December meeting, so it can be effective January 1.
And then we could modify it or if there was something that you didn't know was coming from the state.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And I mean, again, we can always amend our laws and rules.
But I just wondering if you're going to wait for it or you got enough, there's quite a bit of information.
Again, I think a lot of the very, prescriptive things are going to be done at the state level in terms of the use, dosage, licensing, monitoring, tracking.
Yeah.
So I like to try to believe in our state partners once in a while.
Well, it'll be good to look at it here in December then, if you're gonna.
Merry Christmas.
Yes,
All right.
Have some psilocybin.
Thank you for those additional comments, Councillor Minor, and thank you for your optimism, Greg. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Greg.
All right, you get to stop hearing from me for about.
Finally, we get John.
Here for psilocybin, huh?
At least he didn't call it psychosex.
Psilocybin. Yes, you know,
Silly.
it's called, and when I was in the 70s, shrooms, you know, but psilocybin.
That's what they said in the 80s too.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Potential medical benefits, not just.
Joke around. Yeah. All right. Street vernacular. I'm going to remember that. All right. So now we have John with the Public Works Director's report.
Good evening, Mayor, City Councilors. You were provided a Public Works Director's monthly report with some agendas from the Urban Flood and Safety District, Amuktuk. And I do want to mention there was a special Amuktuk meeting that took place yesterday. And I don't know if Councillor Minor wants to add to what I'm going to say. Really, the takeaway was ODOT and Metro, they're really pursuing tolling. And my takeaway was we are moving in that direction. And do you want to add?
Oh, well, John, we talked.
We talked this morning.
Yeah, we talked to compare our notes and let me just, the bigger framework here is that it's congestion and it's traffic, it's the climate and it's money.
So everything.
Yeah, so and let me think, the one I wanted to include was very importantly, equity. Because this is about how we're going to move forward with transportation in this state. And in some cases, try to undo some of the equity issues that's happened with our highways and our transportation system and our even right down to our sidewalks and the crosswalks that are accessible in some parts of our region, but not in other parts of our region. And those are generally those areas that have the least economic wherewithal or incomes to have the safer environment. So the bigger picture there is about transportation, but John is absolutely right. The four areas, and this is just information, you just, hang on because it's gonna start coming and it's tolling on the freeways. It's parking downtown Portland. There is I would call it a corridor around the Portland area that they're considering pricing. ODOT is considering pricing
User fee.
user fees through there. So it's all one big package. It's to really address moving traffic, trying to get people using mass transit, trying to address climate change, trying to build the money that would be collected in tolls. And this question I asked, but we'll be talking about this at Amuktuk. The money, part of it would be used to, again, try to undo some equity issues that have been built into the cake for the last 200 years and address that. So John, that's, you got it. I just wanted to,
And so then my next director's report for next month will include the special Amuktuk meeting with that agenda. So.
John, while we're talking about it, I don't want to be remiss here, but there is a committee that the Amuktuk members, there's no Amuktuk member to serve on it. And if this is something that you're interested in, then let me know, because we do need a member to serve on that committee. And it's one of the subcommittees of a muck tuck, but it's looking exactly at how would this work? And it's talking about equity issues and others. And so I can get you more information about that, but there is a vacant spot there if somebody from this council would like to serve on that.
But I just wanted to touch base on that, the special Amucktuck meeting that we had. So moving on, there was a Parks Commission meeting on Tuesday. I will follow up with City Council, the first meeting in October, with a staff report on recommendations, concerns, issues, questions that the Parks Commission had. Nothing unreasonable. But I think everybody was accepting of kind of where we're going with the progress and some of the projects that we have on the forefront.
I think there was one surprise, and I'll just say Bigfoot. And then, but I'm not going to spoil it for anyone who wasn't at the meeting.
I do have a project update for the RRFBs on Halsey. That's the pedestrian crossings. That project was scheduled to kick off next week. They were going to mob, Brown Contracting was going to mob in and start the project. There's about a 12 to 14 week delay on the actual solar flashers themselves. So they don't want to break ground until they get closer. So they're going to break ground after January 1.
I think at the last meeting, we talked about how they thought that they could just build everything and wait for the lights. What changed their minds?
I'm not down in the weeds on that. I just know they requested a revisit of the breaking ground and mobilizing.
We just got the
All
notice
due
this
respect, it's
afternoon.
kind of our choice whether or not you go into the weeds on things. So maybe we could get a report on why it's delayed.
We just got
We
that
just
note
found
from
out
this
at
afternoon.
3:30 this
All
afternoon.
right.
So
Yeah.
I will get that information for you. I know they're, like I said, they're looking at submittals too. Another delay was submittals from the Brown Contracting that have to be reviewed by Multnomah County. And then some of them have to go through engineering, which they hired, I believe, Geodesign to do the engineering for some of the reviewing rebar and actually testing rebar, because this is an ODOT project and ODOT requires that. So that may have something to do with the delay, but I will get information for you on that.
Thank you.
And moving on, planning and permits, really the big thing was Chick-fil-A and going through design review. And now they'll start the process of submitting their plans and going through the plan review process for building. Code compliance, really the numbers speak for themselves right there, but really the focus was hearing the direction that city council wants code to go. So we have been in contact with Jeff, our city attorney, to see what direction we need to do to get rid of some of the monumental code compliance cases that have been acquired over the years. So we're provided them with some information, waiting for some feedback. But I could tell you just from the information from the last meeting, so far, we've done 47 code cases. So we have ramped up from 21 last month to 47 this month. So there's eyes out there. We're out there and we're making contact with folks. We're working with the Hope team. We're working with Chief Hakala for the parking issues to get those resolved. So just cases, like I said, through September 28th for this month is 47. So.
John, how have you seen the response from the community when it's come to someone reaching out to them of code enforcement? Has there been a positive? Has there been a pushback? Kind of what has that been like?
So when I mean, like a thank you
Or just like, no, but is it like an aggressive, interaction, or is it more like, okay,
You know, for the parking, it's mainly law enforcement. And so either you move it or you tow it. So the other interactions have been civil. You know, I wouldn't say aggressive, overly aggressive, but you know, it's always can be intimidating when a staff member, you know, is knocking on a door or calling someone up and they get hung up on, or, you know, but I think for the most part, if folks are respecting what we do. So more to come on that. Like I said, just this month alone. So we have ramped up our end. And like I said, we are working with our city attorney to get rid of some of those monumental cases.
Any of the administrative timeline, what are those called? The administrative?
Warrant? And was it administrative?
Administrative warrant. Yes, that's what
Yeah.
we're working with Jeff with right now on updating our language
Okay.
for our notices to make
Yeah.
sure that they would pass legal muster as
Gotcha.
evidence to obtain a warrant. So
Gotcha.
we've crafted things. Now we're just getting them all reviewed.
Okay. Thank you.
So, and some of you may be aware of this document here. This is actually going to be a postcard. And we are going to start following up with folks that do comply with our request to remove your car from your grass, you know, park it on an approved surface, cut your
Nice.
vegetation. Some of the kind of those code violations that we see that we send a letter out, they take care of it. That's the end of it. We're going to go that one step further, especially with our public engagement opportunities that this kind of brings up, is just to say thank you. And
Nice, nice.
So, and it's going to be in English and in Spanish. So.
When someone can't afford to, like, there's a code violation and they're, you know, maybe financially there's a barrier, what do we offer them?
That was an easier question before COVID because there were a number of nonprofits or service groups that we could try to connect that person with to help. Like if it was tall grass or something, they'd come in, remove the grass. There are some cases where they do minor home improvements for the person as well. Right now, that's a little harder to identify as a lot of groups are now starting back up again. And I think, you know, the list of needs outstrips service capacity, but that's something we try to do is link a person in need with services that are either at low or no cost to them. And we would extend deadlines. If they're showing good faith or realize, you know, opportunities that they have something in the works, we work with them on that.
And then the monthly Metro fatality report that is brought up at Amuktuk, and it was requested by council that I provide that information for you monthly. I just want to share that with you, and it should have been in your packet also. And you can see the majority of them are around that, you know, I-205, 80 east, west of 82nd area. So
I call your attention though, to look at the people, the pedestrians. And here's a little stat that Portland has about 5% fatalities per 10,000. East County has about 8.5.
Wood Village is 20
Is what,
per thousand.
20?
When you take over the past 5 years, the number of traffic related fatalities, it's 20 per thousand.
Wow.
It ends up being about one
Per
every year and a
10,000,
half.
I mean, you're breaking.
It's
it
either
down to
1,000 or 10,000. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was, the number was 20. But it ends up being about one and a half every year. I mean, one person every year and a half, and the predominance were on the freeway.
Yeah, the freeway. Anyway, we do this, you guys are seeing it each month for that reason, so we build awareness.
personnel, utility one worker, Robert Coley, was promoted to utility two. And he also celebrated his 2-year anniversary here at the city today. So in 2 years, he's received his water distribution level 1 and wastewater collections level 1 also. Splash pad, there's some numbers for the splash pad for consumption from May through kind of our September billing. So August, it was busy.
Oh, we partied.
Yeah. So the number again is in gallons, and that just shows you how many minutes. I mean, it kind of gives you all the information, how many times the button was pushed, how many minutes it's ran, how many gallons, just information for you. So that investment, kids, children, adults are using the splash pad.
Saw a dog use it today.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
He was like barking and trying to get the button to work, and then he did, and he was so happy.
So
John, prior to the coming into City Hall and construction of the splash pad, did we have a guesstimate of what sort of water usage we were going to be, just ballparkish
Not this.
guesstimate?
not, we did not estimate it this high. So we are reevaluating for next year's budget. Yeah. Any,
Is that button a programmable where we could move it to 4 minutes instead of 5 minutes
yeah,
and potentially save water there?
Unless you just end up increasing the number of pushes to get it to run
Or
for as long as the kids want it to run.
Well, that's like lights and clicks, right? You just get more.
Yeah.
I can tell you, our utility staff really focused on our storm system, getting ready for winter time, annual catch basin cleaning, annual Cedar Lane vault cleaning, and street sweeping. So I think we're ready to roll into the winter months, and as we get into rain and the leaves drop, our systems, we're ready to handle it. With that, I think that's the end of my report. Again, besides the 235,000 gallons of water pumping through a splash pad in 1 month. Do you have any questions?
Council President Essen,
Thanks, John.
Councilor Minor,
No questions.
Councilor Rios Campos.
I just think, I mean, this shows that this was a great investment.
Yep.
I mean, even though it's way more, I think usage than expected, this does show that, the community appreciates the amenity, and with the hot summer, I know, a lot of the campers, they were in with that button pushing count. So, to say the least, I think we've invested well with that splash pad.
Councilor Mann.
No questions, just just want to go with. Said like my kid was get done with football camp and then spent 6 hours roughly. Probably mostly Mikey on the pushes.
And I'll follow up with the Brown Contracting delay on the breaking ground.
Sure. Thank you, John. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. And then next up, we have our finance director's report with staff.
Mr. Mayor, Council, included in your packet is the reports for this month. We included the investment summary and graph, as well as revenues to date. We're still working on year end, so we didn't include the expenditures reports, but those will be back along with the capital project report in next month's packet. Speaking of which, I got to walk into this meeting a little bit late. Our auditors will be here next Monday, so we're working on getting prep for that. In addition to the changes that Greg described, we've been shuffling job duties around in finance, so that's added. We've been doing a lot of cross training. It's been quite a bit of work, but I think long term the learning and resiliency that we're going to get out of that process is going to be beneficial. So the only thing that I have for you tonight that wasn't included in your staff report is we did get a leak credit request from Sola Salon at some point in June. One of their irrigation heads started leaking. They didn't discover it until July, and it was repaired on August 15th. When we do the leak credit calculation, they had about 20 or 200 units that ended up leaking over that 2-month period. Since they're a commercial business, they only get a credit based on their sewage usage. They end up paying for the water, but the total amount of the credit is just under $1,400, and anything over $1,000 requires a council action for approval, which talking with Greg, that's one of the things, that limit is one of the things as we're doing the rate study, we'll put as an item to see what you all are comfortable with, because as much as Greg wants to forgive them their debts and allow them to continue to go along their merry way, the way that the code's written currently is anything over 1,000 is a requirement to come before council. So I'm bringing that for you tonight. It doesn't require a resolution. We would need a council action though if you want to approve that lead credit to Sola Salon.
To approve the additional $400 or approve the $1,000?
The whole kit and caboodle. It's not over 1,400. I think it's like 1,360 is what that ended up working out to.
I'd entertain a motion then to award the lead credit to Sola Salon. And what was the amount? Again,
It was not to exceed 1,400.
not to exceed $1,400.
Second.
Actually, I was entertaining. I try not to make them. But I'll make it.
Did you make it?
No, I was entertaining it.
Oh, you're.
Yeah. No, but it's not out of order for me to make it. So I'll just say that I made the motion and that Council Minor made the second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you very much. Is there any questions on the financial summary or any matters financially related?
No questions, just something kind of picayune for me on the report that has the property tax, business income tax, cigarette tax, and whether they're up or down. And the ones that are down are colored red and the ones that are up are colored green. There's 2 downs that are colored green.
I will check the coding on those cells. That should all be red for down, green for
Yeah,
up.
the 3% on state shared revenues for this year is, it says down 3%, but it's colored green. And then the totals on the year 20 say they're down 3%, but it's colored green.
Maybe the color printer ran out of green.
Red. Every time they're.
Oh, red, yeah.
There's just 3%, it colors it green.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll make sure that I'll take a look at that and make sure that's fixed for your next report.
All right, and sorry to interrupt the regular flow of things. Did you have any questions at all,
No
Council President? Councilor Minor
No question.
and Councilor Rios Campos
Questions?
and Councilor Men. All right, thank you very much, Seth. Appreciate it.
Thank you much.
All right, next up, we have our city attorney, or excuse me, our city manager's report with Greg.
Yeah, because you haven't heard from me at all tonight, so I got it.
That's right.
As Seth talked about, it reminded me, I didn't point out in the staff reorg another benefit that by adding someone to the financial side increases our separation of duties and internal controllability. So just another benefit that the auditors will love to see as again, some additional separation, which is difficult in a team of, 15, 16 people to fully spread. And I think we do a pretty good job. But now it's even a little more so. But back to my reports. Not much on the APP other than to mention that at your next meeting, we will see our TGM IGA with the cities of Troutdale and Fairview on the agenda because ODOT did approve it. So we have a scope of work and Troutdale approved it at their meeting the other night and it'll be on Fairview's October meeting as well. So we will be kicking off the TGM Main Streets and Halsey process next week. So only 2 years late. That's not so bad, but we're kicking that off and it's going to be wonderful. And we'll certainly give you all updates as we refine the process and that public engagement piece to it. In terms of outside the APP, a couple of things I want to bring up. One, I had the privilege of meeting with the Hope Team members as well as the city managers from Troutdale and Fairview with the navigation team that's working exclusively with the Hope Team earlier this week. And I just want to mention that they're just a wonderful group of dedicated individuals that their only purpose really is to serve the unhomed and to get them on whatever better track that means to the person that they're serving. It was great to meet with them for about 2 hours. I actually try to hope we can maybe bring a couple of them here to talk with you all about the work that they do because it was quite empowering and insightful. And they provided some wonderful insights of some things that could be enhanced or made a little more optimal with the joint office, which I meet with them monthly with the other city managers. So we're going to proffer that as well at our monthly meeting. And they're also going to be here at hopefully your second October meeting. That hasn't been set yet, but I hope to get that scheduled next week or two. So hopefully, we can all learn more about the joint office, the navigation team, and ways in which we can help make sure that everyone's getting the services that they need. Want to ask everyone right now. So the Confederate Tribes of Grand Ronde have reached out. They want to do a joint council to council again. I already think it won't work for you, Council President Nissen, because the schedule that worked for them was October 27th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. At their facility in Grand Ronde. Certainly, if you need a bit, a day or two to get back to me, if you could get back to me by Monday, that would be great. Or if you can just respond now, even better.
Say those dates, that date again.
October 27th, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. That would be the meeting time frame, but figure hour and a half travel time there and back.
The Grand Run.
Correct.
One more time the time?
October 27th, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. That's the meeting date. So we'd leave here probably 8:30-ish and get back sometime around 2:30.
Greg, I have a conflict. I'm going to be out of town.
Unacceptable.
25th through I'm going to do the council meeting and then I'll be out of town through the weekend. But that's the only date that works for everybody, then go.
And if we can get, more people than not, that'd be great. If we can't, then we'll just work to try to find another date. It'll probably be a little deeper into November.
Can make it.
I just have to move something around and there's enough time that I can move something around. So that would work for me.
Yeah, I just need to request the time off, so there's plenty of time.
And that's a Saturday, right?
No, it's a Thursday.
Thursday.
22nd?
27th.
Oh.
Yeah.
You should have had us fly.
But if you want to have a get together on Saturday, the 22nd, that's my 56th birthday. So,
Oh,
yeah.
Let's party then.
So, yeah, knock yourselves out.
If people want a day or so to respond, that's great.
I might need a day.
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
It's just something about the way you say 27th that throws people off, I think.
Especially 10 to 1 p.m.
There's also been a request, and I'm not sure which mayor is driving it, if it's Mayor Lauer or Mayor Cooper, to hold a three city council meeting. And the date that has been selected is October 18th, 6 o'clock. I'd love to say I know the exact form of the agenda, but I don't, because it's still a little gray. The overall theme is called shared services. I was hoping to focus it in on fire and options for fire service, since that contract is coming up. And there's some shared responsibilities and duties with that. There's an interest from others to broaden it. So I don't have an agenda yet, but wanted to also gauge your interest on October 1-8. 6 p.m. for a 3-city council meeting.
I won't be able to make it.
I figured. Your October is already booked up.
What was that date again?
I'm available on the 18th. At 6 p.m.
Jack.
See, I'm helping you out here, Greg.
Yes, 'cause I can't hear or listen apparently. So
That works for me.
And we'll just wait for the details and where.
Yeah, meeting with Ray and Philip tomorrow to hopefully finalize-ish an agenda.
Okay.
Again, I'm not sure who's piloting that boat. Again, I'm trying to push for just let's focus on what the collective response is for fire and a direction for fire service.
Here, or I'm not coming.
It actually is here.
Okay, good.
Yeah, we're gonna squish the table together.
Because, if they want to have 3 city mayors or 3 city meetings that are the mayor's idea, they ought to let me in on it before I hear about it at a council meeting.
Yeah, and I'm not sure who was,
And
it almost seems like no one was driving the boat.
And I think that the agenda should be fire, because the reason I wasn't told is because I've told them repeatedly that I don't want to talk about shared service other than fire, that we are happy with the sheriff. And that if we're going to get together as cities to spend money, then I want it to be new projects, not propping other cities up on old things that they can't afford.
I will make the sentiment, if that's a shared sentiment, I can. I will make that known tomorrow that if it's not focused on fire, there's not a lot of interest. Is that a fair statement?
Well, I think it's, that makes sense, but I'm not sure why we wouldn't hear what the conversation is. You don't even know what the conversation is.
Well, again, it was kind of shared services. Oh, can we share utility workers? Can we share
Oh.
accountants? Can we share inserts?
And it's been the same thing
No,
going on. It's been the same thing
not
going on
sharing.
for years because
Not
one of
sharing
the
our
cities
toys.
in the equation has a budget deficit. And they're
Okay.
looking for us to help pay their way out. And so
Well, I'm not aware of that, so.
I will admit, when I met with the other day to
and
talk.
nobody ever, I mean, I have not ever been, there used to be 4 city council meetings. I think 2 Gresham city councilors showed up to one of them. And I have never been to a 3 cities meeting that was called, and I've been on council since 2011, where the entire councils from all 3 cities showed up. And you can't, I mean, it's a public meeting. So I suppose, I guess you could jury to answers. But, mostly they're just, a cookie, a bottle of water and staring.
Well, and when I met the other day with the other city managers, the question was asked by one of them of why are there 3 cities? Why not just one? And I will admit, I said, well, gee, why are we 26 different jurisdictions at the metro region? Why aren't we just a city of metro? To which the response was, well, that'd be ridiculous. And I said, and there's your answer why we're 3 cities.
That's right.
So I will admit I got a little sarcastic and snarky.
Perfect.
I'm known for it in case you needed to be.
For what?
And I'm known for that in case you hadn't figured it out yet.
Well, the history is, like I said, I'm not sure I can comment on because I don't know that history other than what we've just heard tonight.
Luckily, I did drop Jeff's little nice nugget of information that if cities do absorb one another, you have to take the lowest of the tax rate. And when I explained that would be ours and what that tax rate is, the interest waned quite a bit. And they said that wasn't fair. And I said, that's the law. So thank you, Jeff, for that nugget. It came in handy. 2 more things. One, I'm working with the sheriff's office trying to put together a holiday toy drive. It's in the very early stage of development, but we hope to put together a little working group that can both partner with the local store to promote the drive, as well as then connect with a provider to get toys and gifts to needy families for the holiday. So as that matures and gets more information, I will share it with you. And my last thing I want to share, it's a good thing this time. Thanks to the mayor working with some folks at Pamplin Media. I don't want that. Okay, hold on. Got to find the right screen.
Actually, I do like that picture that John used for the splash pad.
Yeah.
Well, I won't be, I'll just show it up here and
Well,
hopefully.
Greg finds it. He was part of the negotiation too, because he ended up getting us a better price than I had.
There it is. So thanks to the mayor working with Pamplin Media, talking about the Gorge publication, which is, I believe, an annual publication put on by Pamplin Media promoting communities around the Gorge region. So organizations, businesses, et cetera. The mayor said, well, I'd like an ad. And we said, great. And we got, thanks to the mayor, the page next to the table of contents, full page at a discount next to the table of contents. So everyone will see it. And Caroline and Becky put this little number together, to which the ad executive at Pamplin said, wow. Because they were offering, oh, we could try to help you build something that I said, I think we got it. So I think that's pretty slick.
Looks great.
I like it. It's awesome.
Really good.
And how did it come about? Did you?
I met with Jeff Kenway from the West Columbia Gorge Chamber of Commerce.
Oh, okay.
They distribute the magazine, and he pitched it, and just being the competitor that I am, I wanted outside back or inside back cover.
Yeah.
Both were spoken for, and so the very next best spot still available in the guide is next to the table of contents, which everyone reads,
Sure.
and so that's where we went.
There you go.
So a happy thing, because that's pretty nice looking. And it was no credit to me because the direction I gave was erased and otherwise fixed by Becky.
If you look real close, it looks like those commercial property is already occupied, restaurants in there and everything.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
All right.
that is my report. Any questions?
Council President,
No questions. Thanks,
Council
Greg.
Minor, Council Rios Campos,
Question.
and Councilor Mann.
Yep.
All right. And Jeff, do you have a city attorney's report?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do want to correct one misapprehension, and that is it's not the lowest tax base that goes into effect. But what happens? is
We accidentally turned him all the way off.
Hello? Can you hear me?
It's not, it's not the lower tax.
It's not the lowest tax.
Yeah, okay.
And then we turned him off.
Can you hear me?
Well,
Tell them to call back.
Oh, there's our attorney. He's back.
It's back now.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Just so you know, Jeff. Yeah, it
Oh, I
was
just
Seth-
was-
it
I was just
Seth that
wondering-
turned it off, not Greg turning you off so that you wouldn't say that what he said was wrong. So lowest tax rate, that's all we heard. It's not the lowest tax rate.
It's not, no, you don't go to the lowest tax rate, but you average the tax rates.
Oh,
But that has the effect, since Wood Village is so much lower, your basic tax rate, of reducing everybody's tax rate. So if the three cities combined, they'd actually have less taxing authority than if they stayed independent. So it's still a good argument. It's just not quite as good.
well,
the spirit correct.
Right.
thanks for
then,
that clarification.
Yes. And then I just also wanted to note how gently Greg and John let the council know that their new notices were languishing in my inbox, and I promise to get those tomorrow. Do those tomorrow. That's it.
Thank you very much, Jeff. And then Councilor Meyer, go to you first. Did you have anything else that you wanted to say about that upcoming Amoktuk meeting?
Again, just here's another update that is, I think, worthwhile. There is a million, I can't remember how many millions of dollars. Do you remember the Safe Street grant? Is it 40 million or?
Tens of millions.
Yeah, it's a bucket of dough there. That is going to be available for safe streets. And safe streets, all the things we talk about here with crosswalks, new, different sidewalks. They're going to focus a lot on handicap crossings. But that should be some money that we might be able to snag for hopefully 2 more crosswalks up on Wood Village Boulevard.
And if I believe this first tranche is more for the planning round and planning
Yeah.
efforts, and then I think it's around, what's it, 2026 for the
You're right.
capital?
It is, yeah.
So just don't want to get expectations that in a year or so, there's this money for building things.
Yeah.
Right now, it's the planning side and then the building.
Yeah, if you stay on the council for 4 more terms, then you'll be able to see it.
Come to fruition. Yeah. Councilor Minor, if you wouldn't mind, if you could get that information to Councilor Rios Campos. He is our new full member of the Main Streets on Halsey board, and he can testify that at least one member of that board is disappointed that we are having crosswalks first and doesn't feel like we cooperated with the other cities enough to help them build crosswalks. And so this grant opportunity needs to be pointed out to them.
Yeah, well, we'll,
I also think that member is no longer on the board, so.
oh,
Ours are just the pilot project program.
that's all I have for my,
All right, thank you. Council President Nissen,
I have nothing to report.
Councilor Rios Campos.
Next weekend, October 8th is the Play East Costume Dash. Register at playeast.org.
You said costume.
Dash.
Sounds
And
very
that was,
fun.
and that was October 8th.
October 8th, Saturday, October 8th. It'll be here. Run will start at 9, check-in start at 8.
It's a 5K.
I mean, it's something.
It's just a dash and multiple, yeah, a dash and a rest and a dash and a rest and, yeah. Yeah. And then, Councilor Men, do you have anything else? Okay. And I don't have anything else either. Staff? We're adjourned. Thank you.
We're
Good
gonna
night,
talk
all.
about this.
Night.
We have a meeting before then.
Yes.
Okay, so. Let us know some.